Yes. Good morning, students. We start with the next chapter. That is chapter number 7, A Visit to Cambridge. Before starting the reading of the chapter or description of the chapter, I would like to show the picture of Stephen Hawking, and I hope many of you recognize this person, very famous in the field of science. And I would I would like to. This is a pic of Dostanda. So before my description, yes, who would like to say something about Stephen Hawking?
Ma'am,
Yes. Who?
ma'am Stephen Hawkins, ma'am, I'm ignorant.
Okay, then. Yes.
Ma'am Stephen Hawkins was a scientist and he explored and studied about the black hole.
Okay, very good. Any other?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, he also he was a scientist in the field of cosmology, I guess, and he also just
Yes. Okay, very famous in the field of science. But anybody would like to say about his
and ma'am
physical?
theory of relativity and all. He also
Uh,
Ma'am, he was a physicist and a cosmologist.
okay, and about his physical appearance or physical feature. Now I'm concerned with his physique. Who would like to say something about his physique?
Good morning, ma'am.
Yes,
Ma'am,
I'm
good
Vita.
morning, ma'am.
Wait.
and
One.
he
Yes.
was suffering from paralysis and he was not able to move.
You can see the pic only. It was not simply paralysis. Yes, any other child? Who was the other child? Yes, Sudhima. Gansh, I think. The other
Ma'am, can I?
child? Yes.
Ma'am, Stephen Hawking was a astrophysics. He discovered black hole. Ma'am, he got education from Trinity College, UK, and he
Okay.
suffered from paralysis.
Yeah. But it was not a simply paralysis, but rather he couldn't move from the chair
Ma'am,
and speak. He was
remember
not,
he could only move his eyes.
yeah, eyes only. And he used to converse with others through the computer. He used to, he could talk to others through computers only. So here we are going to read this chapter, very interesting chapter for you, very informative. But here the concern is not science, right? It is this chapter is not related to science. It is related to his appearance, his physical condition, and with his psychology. Very
Excuse me,
very nice chapter. Yes, Vita. Yes, Salil.
ma'am. Stephen Hawking was not a situation to move his body, ma'am. Only his brain was working, and he could only move his one finger.
Naturally, the other organs were functioning, and he just passed away, I think, 1 or 1.5 years ago only. So he led a very good life, and he just very famous in the field of science. This is the story. Now, this is the story, and you can see that the person, the other peak in the chapter, that person, that is the Dawson. He just actually interviewed that person, and he was in the same condition, with the same physical condition. This is a story of a meeting between two extraordinary people, both of them disabled or differently able. Whether you know that earlier we used the term handicap, but now the government has banned, from a few years, government has banned to use this term, handicap. Rather, in place of that, we are using the words disabled or differently able. As we now say, Stephen Hawking is one of the greatest scientists of our time. He suffers from a form of paralysis that confines him to a wheelchair, confines, restricted. He was restricted to a wheelchair and allows him to speak only by punching buttons on a computer. Means he talked through a computer only. Firdaus Kanga is a writer and journalist who lives and works in Mumbai. Ganga was born with brittle bones. But this is the main problem, the same problem he was having. Brittle bones, very weak bones, and they can just break when he tried to move. That tended to break easily when he was a child, like Ganga moves around in a wheelchair. The two great men exchange thoughts on what it means to live life in a wheelchair and how the so-called normal people react to the disease. He just tried to find out that how he himself as a human being, as a disabled person, he used to feel. I would like to share here one my experience also. But in our school, you might be very young, but we can say that child should be near about in class 2 or so. We were having a boy in our school. He used to, he never came to school after he was in fifth standard, I think fourth or fifth standard. He stopped coming to school. Earlier, he was brought by someone, some person. His father used to pick him in his lap and pass it just make him sit in the classroom, then come to take take him. And after 2 3 years, then I joined the school. After 1 or 2 years only, he just stopped coming to school because he was growing. ऐसा नहीं होता कि ऐसे बच्चे की फिजिकल ग्रोथ नहीं होती है, फिजिकल ग्रोथ होती है. And 2 years back, that boy, he visited the school once. When it was his 10th standard, I think last year, he again came to our school. He visited on a chair the same day. And he was so intelligent. I will really appreciate the efforts of the parents and the intelligence of the child. वो भी इतना शार्प माइंडेड था. जैसे हम बोलते हैं ना, भगवान जब एक चीज लेते हैं ना, तो 10 वो आपको गुण दे देता है. तो वो हम लोग उसको क्या हम उसकी कैसे लर्निंग होती थी बेटा? We used to send all the assignments. We used to send the question paper. He will solve the assignments. He will solve the answer sheet. All the that test and paper will send to school, and we teacher we used to check it. और आप मान नहीं सकते कि उस बच्चे का ऐसा अच्छा उसकी ग्रेस्पिंग थी, ऐसी अच्छी अंडरस्टैंडिंग थी, अपने आप वो पढ़ता था. कहीं ना कहीं पेरेंट्स हेल्प करते होंगे, लेकिन इतने सिंसियर एफर्ट्स थे उस बच्चे के कि हमें उसके पेपर में मिस्टेक ढूंढनी पड़ती, इतने क्रिएटिव उसके आइडियाज होते. सो it is not so that whatever is blessed by God only that is our assets, or but sometimes we with our hard work we can do this. Now here again, this Firdaus Kanga, he has tried to bring before us the mental state of such a disabled person. World famous utha yahan pe wo Stephen Hawking is world famous. He's the best scientist. Then he wanted to, the editor here, the journalist here, he try to read the mind of this. So हमने उसी point of view से chapter को read करना. ठीक है, हम उसकी लाइफ हिस्ट्री नहीं पढ़ रहे हैं बेटा यहाँ पे, हम उसके चाइल्डहुड की बातें नहीं कर रहे हैं, अब सिर्फ उसकी मेंटल स्टेट की बात कर रहे हैं. Cambridge was a metaphor for England. Metaphor, you know, simile. Beta, there are two poetic devices, simile and metaphor. Okay, I would like to, why this word is used, metaphor here. So I would like to describe this. This simile होता है जब हम किसी चीज को कंपेयर करते हैं. As beautiful as moon, as moon, fine. करते हैं ऐसे, as swift as tiger, like this, है ना, ये simile होती है, आपने पढ़ी होंगी childhood में. Now this metaphor में क्या होता है कि इसमें हम कंपेयर तो करते हैं, हम आर्टिकल तो बताते हैं, लेकिन उसको as beautiful as नहीं करते हैं, हम डायरेक्ट बोलते हैं. He is for example, he is as brave as lion, ऐसे बोलेंगे हम लोग. ठीक है, रमेश is as brave as lion. क्लियर? लेकिन जब मेटाफर यूज करें तो हम बोलेंगे भगत सिंह was the lion of Punjab, lion of India. इसमें हमने क्या किया, हमने वो यूज किया lion, और उसकी जगह पे हमने सारी जो क्वालिटीज थी वो हमने किसमें व्यू कर ली, भगत सिंह. उसको किससे रिलेट कर दिया, भगत सिंह को किससे हमने कंपेयर कर दिया, लायन से. लेकिन एज या लाइक लगा के नहीं किया, हमने डायरेक्ट ही बोला कि ही वाज द लायन ऑफ पंजाब और लायन ऑफ इंडिया. ठीक है, दिस इज द डिवाइस मेटाफर. इसीलिए यहाँ पे यूज किया है कैम्ब्रिज वाज माय मेटाफर फॉर Cambridge was my metaphor for England, and it was strange that when I left it, it had become altogether something else because I had met Stephen Hawking there. Means he now this journalist, he is sharing his experience, what was additional to his visit to Cambridge. That is the title only of Visit to Cambridge, which he can never forget. Cambridge was next story. It was on my walking tour through Cambridge that the guide mentioned Stephen Hawking. Poor man, who is quite disabled now, though he is a worthy successor to Isaac Newton. See, worthy successor, he the person, he used the word poor man for Stephen Hawking. The poor man who is quite disabled now, thou, he is a worthy successor to Isaac Newton. न्यूटन की तरह वो sharp minded है. Thou he is a worthy, thou he is a worthy successor to Isaac Newton, whose chair he has at the university. Now, whose chair he has at the university, this sentence shows that he can only succeed to, जिसको हम बोलते हैं ना कि that successor उसने वर्ड करा है, that who can only succeed to that chair means that designation, that honor. And I started because I had quite forgotten that this is most brilliant and completely paralyzed astrophysicist. He was completely paralyzed astrophysicist. The author of a brief history. The author of A Brief History of Time, one of the biggest bestsellers ever lived there. He was the author of A Brief History of Time, which was the biggest bestseller, one of the most sold edition. When the walking tour was done, I rushed to a phone booth and almost tearing the cord so it could reach me outside, phoned Stephen Hawking's house. बेटा आपने छोटे छोटे phrases हैं, but they are very nice language. It's used. See how you can express your emotions, your feelings through vocabulary. Tearing word उसने use किया है. I rushed to a phone booth. Now that the journalist, he made a call to that residence of Stephen Hawking and almost tearing the cord. Cord किसके? That telephone cord. Tearing the cord means trying to pulling. So it could reach me outside. He was not able to enter the phone booth. यहाँ पे तो अपनी helplessness भी show कर रहा है. That Firdaus कर रहा है. Phone Stephen Hawking's house. He made a call. Here the word phone is used as a verb. ये छोटी छोटी बातें आपको नोट करनी चाहिए ये ताकि you should not be confused कि मुझे इस वर्ड को as a verb यूज कर सकता हूँ या कि नहीं कर सकता हूँ. आपको लिटरली ऐसे बहुत से वर्ड्स मिलेंगे, एडवेंचर मिलेगा कि वो कैसे यूज किए गए. फॉर्म ऑफ द वर्ड आल्सो you should consider. There was his assistant on the line and I told him I had come in a wheelchair from India. See, this phrase shows the physical condition of Firdaus Kanga also. He came from India on a wheelchair. Means he is also disabled. Perhaps he thought I had propelled myself all the way to write about my travels in Britain. Means he wanted to write about his visit to Britain and he wanted to meet this. And his visit could not be complete without meeting this Stephen Hawking. I had to see Professor Hawking. Even 10 minutes would do. He will be satisfied. Even 10 minutes are even given to him. Half an hour, he said, and he allotted half an hour. Author ने 10 minutes भी मांगे. They were very precious. He knew that the time is very precious for all these designated people. But he was allotted half an hour. From 3:30 to 4. And suddenly I felt weak all over. And suddenly he felt weak. Growing up disabled, you get fed up with people asking you to be brave as if you have courage account on which you are too lazy to draw a check. And suddenly I felt weak all over. और जब आपको ऐसा होता है कि हम कोई भी चीज पाने के लिए स्ट्रगल करते हैं और अल्टीमेटली जब हमें वो मिल जाता है तो हमारी सारी जो एग्जर्शन होती है ना, जब भी कोई काम, बड़ा काम, हम प्रोजेक्ट कंप्लीट करते हैं तो सारी थकावट कहते हैं बाद में निकलती है ना. सो ही वॉज लिटिल बिट फीलिंग वीक. Growing up disabled, you get fed up with the people. ये ऑथर की अपनी फीलिंग्स हैं. ही इज शेयरिंग. यू गेट फेड अप विद द पीपल आस्किंग यू टू बी ब्रेव. डिसेबल होना, लेकिन जब आपको लोग बोलते हैं ना कि यू शुड बी ब्रेव, तो आपको बड़ी इरिटेशन होती है कि इसको, ये मेरी कंडीशन में तो है नहीं और मुझे समझा रहा है. As if you have a courage account on which you are too lazy to draw a check. ऐसा लगता है कि वो इंसान आपको वो अक्ल दे रहा है जो जिस सिचुएशन में वो कभी हुआ ही नहीं. The only thing that makes you stronger is seeing somebody like you achieving something huge. लेकिन आपको असली ताकत, आपको असली encouragement कब मिलता है? जब आप अपनी ही कंडीशन में, अपनी ही जैसी सेम सिचुएशन से किसी को कुछ बड़ा अचीव करते हुए देखते हैं, है ना, तब आपको स्ट्रेंथ मिलेगी. Then you know how much is possible and you reach out further than you ever thought you could. Then you know how much is possible, कि हम कितना अचीव कर सकते हैं सेम सिचुएशन में. And you reach out further than you ever thought you could. Then you try and you achieve even better. फिर हम उससे भी बेहतर पाने की कोशिश करेंगे जब हम सेम सिचुएशन वाले इंसान को कुछ अच्छा अचीव करते हुए नोट करें. I haven't been brave, said his disembodied computer voice the next afternoon. I have had no choice. I haven't been brave. मैं ब्रेव नहीं था, ये उसने एडमिट किया. Said his disembodied computer voice the next afternoon. The next afternoon, when he met Stephen Hawking, he told him that I have not been brave. Admit किया उसने. I have had no choice. लेकिन मुझे brave बनना पड़ा because there was no choice. Means the one thing we need to understand that the people, disabled people like these too, they had no choice. इनके पास दो सिचुएशन होती है बेटा. ऐसे सिचुएशन में हमारे पास सिर्फ दो सिचुएशन हैं, या तो हम सरेंडर कर दें और कहीं ना कहीं गुम हो जाए. जब हमारे जिंदगी में ऑब्स्टेकल्स आते हैं, टफ सिचुएशंस आती हैं, या तो हम उसको सरेंडर कर दें और हम टूट जाएं. दूसरा तरीका होता है कि वी नीड टू बी मच मोर ब्रेव, कि हम और ज्यादा हिम्मत जुटा के उसके साथ फाइट करें सिचुएशन के साथ, एंड देन वी सक्सीड. Surely, I wanted to say, living creatively with the reality of his disintegrating body was a choice. Surely, I wanted to say, living creatively with the reality of his disintegrating body was a choice. ये choice होती है हमारे पास कि हम अपनी situation में कैसे जिए. With the, but I kept quiet because I felt guilty every time I spoke to him, forcing him to respond. अब क्या था कि the author, he was feeling guilty. I kept quiet. मैं चुप हो गया, मेरे पास कोई बात नहीं, आंसर नहीं था उसकी बात की जवाब का, कि I could really just realize because I was forcing him. I felt guilty every time I spoke to him, forcing him to respond because he was not able to speak. He was just responding through a computer. You can see here in the clip that he was just typing on the computer and that was giving the noise. Tapping at the little switch in his hand, trying to find the words on his computer with the only bit of movement left to him. His long, pale fingers. Every so often, his eyes would shut in frustrated exhaustion. उसने frustrated exhaustion भी observe की Hawkins के face पे. He was feeling tired. बहुत एनर्जी उसको चाहिए थी उसको टाइप करने के लिए, जवाब देने के लिए. And sitting opposite him, he could feel his anguish, irritation. ना तो वो उस चीज को, जब हम किसी काम को पूरा करने की कोशिश करते हैं, we put our full efforts beyond our we can say our capacity also. And sitting opposite him, I could feel his anguish, the mind beyond with thoughts that came out in frozen phrases and sentences stiff as corpses. Very beautiful sentence, Pita. Mind beyond with thoughts, beyond intensely active and vibrant. उसके ब्रेन में सारे विचार आ रहे थे. It was full of thoughts. He wanted to so much what he was sharing. But mind beyond the thoughts that came out in frozen phrases. ये तो आप जानते ही हो कि जो बात हम बोल के एक्सप्रेस कर सकते हैं वो हम रिटन टेक्स्ट में कितने वर्ड्स कितने एक्सप्रेशन आप ऐड करते हैं, है ना. उसके लिए हमें कहीं गुना ज्यादा, क्योंकि जब हम बोल के बाय स्पीच वी शेयर आवर इमोशन, तो हमारी इंटोनेशन होती है. इंटोनेशन जो आप जानते हो ना, हमारा हाई टोन, लो पिच, फेस एक्सप्रेशन, फिजिकल जेस्चर्स, कितनी चीजें उसमें ऐड हो जाती है. बट he was expressing, he was sharing through frozen phrases and sentences stiff as corpses. Sentences stiff as corpses means dead bodies. Only he could share his feelings through the phrases and the sentences stiff like corpses. So we'll proceed tomorrow with the next part.